Pavel, it's a great pleasure indeed to be speaking to you, and I wish that I was with you in Bulgaria. In fact, I'm speaking to you from my home in England. To sum up briefly, I'm a journalist and an author. I've worked as a foreign correspondent in Paris, Athens, Washington, and Moscow. I've worked for newspapers like The Economist, The Financial Times, and The Times. And one of the most powerful experiences of my life was to participate in the waterborne symposia organized by the Ecumenical Patriarch, His Royal Holiness Bartholomew I. And that's exactly how we met.
Why is it relevant to remember and carry the memory of the symposia, which took place in the end of the 1990s and the beginning of 2000s? Are they still relevant?
I would say so, yes. These symposia really were a landmark, if you like, in the story of the encounter between religion and the environment. And they have a profound ongoing effect. I mean, just to sum up briefly, the idea of the symposia was to convene religious leaders and scientists and environmentalists and local politicians in various ecologically sensitive places. And all these encounters took place on ships, and they took the form of voyages. And the participants, albeit from very different backgrounds, found themselves quite literally in the same boat. And therefore, they were forced to confront the fact that whatever the difference in the disciplines, in their worldviews, nonetheless, we were all confronting planetary problems, which in one way or another will affect and possibly overwhelm us all. So it was a new model of gathering, these waterborne symposia, which brought home the fact that we are all literally in the same boat.
I have been meaning to show some video and I'll try to do it, but how would you evaluate the impact of what happened back then at this symposia over today's prominent development and communication on the connection between environment and religion, which we observe from prominent leaders of the Catholic Church, such as the current Pope Leo and his predecessor, Pope Francis?
Well, in this process, I think that absolutely vital role was played by the symposium in Brazil, in the heart of the Amazon, in 2006. This was a very courageous move on the part of the Patriarch, because it took him right outside the traditional historic grounds of the Patriarch, or indeed other Orthodox patriarchates. It was a place very, very far from any organized Orthodox Christian communities. The meeting took place in and near Manaus, in the heart of the Amazon. And one of its seminal moments consisted of a blessing of the waters of the Amazon at the point where two rivers converge to form the Amazon. And there was a Christian blessing carried out by the Patriarch, but in cooperation with his Anglican and Catholic counterparts. Then there was also a more traditional kind of blessing by the indigenous people of the region. And there was a kind of mutual respect in the whole proceedings, not a mixing of religions, but on the contrary, a kind of mutual recognition. And this, and I think this was televised, and I think it had a profound effect on everybody who witnessed the event, either from close up or from afar. Now, if you then consider what happened after that symposium, I think that symposium was decisive in in, if you like, converting the Brazilian bishops to the view that the future of the rainforest is a matter of vital importance for Latin America and indeed for mankind, and that it's an issue which the Catholic Church ought to be concerned with. Now, the then Bishop of Buenos Aires was a certain Cardinal Jorge Bergoglio, later known as Pope Francis. Now, he freely admits that at first he didn't quite know what his Brazilian counterparts were talking about. It took him some time to understand why the rainforest and the people of the rainforest should be a particular concern for the church. But after due reflection, the Cardinal Bergoglio came round to this view. He came round to agreeing with his Brazilian counterparts. And those broadly were the views that Pope Francis took with him to the Vatican when he was appointed to the Holy See. So I think you can trace a line between our Brazilian symposium, between the greening, if you like, of the Brazilian Catholic Church, and eventually the greening of the worldwide Catholic Church under the guidance of Pope Francis. So I think that our Brazilian symposium really was an event of historical importance.
Indeed, and as a participant in some of the previous ones, I can confirm how powerful the message was from the fact that leaders, spiritual leaders of various religious schools were able to sit together, to pray together, sometimes in silence, as I witnessed in Greenland, and thus sending a unified, powerful, unified message that the creation, the earth that we all share, belongs to us all, and we should be the stewards and protectors of the creation. Uh, do you mind sharing how this exposure to this powerful message and the mission of Patriarch Bartholomew influenced your personal work and life as a journalist and a book author?
Well, now that I'm a semi-retired journalist, I think I can speak more freely about this. I mean, I went to these symposia. I was present at 8 of the 9 symposia. I mean, both as a reporter and, if you like, as a participant too. And especially in the symposia in Brazil and Greenland, I think I can say that I played an active role in the discussions we had, and in perhaps helping other journalists who were not so familiar with the procedures to understand what was going on. And I mean, I was often moved by the courage of the Patriarch in going to places that were profoundly unfamiliar to him, and in communicating with people who, culturally speaking, were very far from his world. I suppose I was struck by the fact that, in a manner of speaking, the Patriarch, as one of the very small ethnic Greek community in his home city of Istanbul and his home island of Imbros, he's a person who can empathize, in a sense, with endangered minorities, with minorities that are struggling to survive in adverse circumstances. And I noticed that his human qualities were so powerful that they overcame barriers of language and culture and specific religious beliefs, and enabled him to communicate in a very human way with ordinary people in all the places we visited. And I found this very moving.
Perhaps to conclude, what would you think is the most significant lesson learned which we could take from this work and apply it to today's world and its current challenges?
Well, I think that the symposia, they were events of that time. They were if you like, demonstrative events to show what was possible in terms of dialogue between religion and the environment and science. I think we wouldn't organize things like that now because we are much more conscious of factors like carbon footprint and the expense and carbon expenditure in bringing together people across huge distances. But what we can do now is, in a sense, reproduce electronically what we did physically back then. I mean, electronics allow us to communicate, across geographical distance, across cultural barriers. And I would like to think that there will be an ongoing symposium or an ongoing series of symposia that will take place in large measure through the medium of electronics.
With this news and positive wishful thinking for the future, I thank you for this statement. Bruce Clark, experienced journalist with The Economist and other newspapers and media, and a participant in the Religion, Science and Environment Symposia by Patriarch Bartholomew. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pavel. It was a great pleasure to speak to you.